Hey everyone, it's Nephis here, and in this video, this video is something I've been putting off for a while because, to be frank, it is a bit mentally draining for me to do. But I figured it's a good time to have a little heart-to-heart discussion about a lot of things concerning the Elder Scrolls Online. In this video, I'm going to cover, in order the following: the current state of ESO, without hopefully too much bias, the content creator ecosystem, the content space, and how it's going to be short-term and long-term. My predictions for ESO, which is going to be my least favorite part because um, all the serious predictions I make for ESO, barring the Redguard chapter, right, tend to become reality, unfortunately. My advice for ESO content creators or aspiring ESO content creators, and this is all going to be mixed in with my with personal things that have been going on my end in terms of content creation. So forgive me if I do ramble at certain tangents, but if you don't want to listen to what I have to say, as I do respect your time as much as you do mine, hopefully, the too long didn't watch of this video is that no, ESO isn't dying or dead, especially if you're new or newer player. But the content space, along with the decline of the older player base for ESO, is steadily going, and may have drastic consequences down the line later on in terms of both player activity and game longevity as we progress further through our timeline, into 2024, 2026. That's riddled with newer MMOs and IP releases. So let's talk about the numbers real quick. So what I mean by no, ESO isn't dying, which may be a bit contrarian to what some other content creators may be thinking or feeling. In terms of player population, it's simply cyclical with sharp peaks and sharp downturns. If you check websites like MMO Health and Steam charts or in-game rosters for guilds or whatever metric you can see, that you can see that ESO as a game, at least on PC, is doing fine and still has probably an okay presence on console, considering Final Fantasy XIV and BDO are the only serious competitors on those platforms. I think recently a lot of disillusioned players want the game to be dying or to be dead in a sort of subconscious way, not an active way, kind of like a "I told you so," or a way to kind of justify maybe like their own concept of a sunken cost fallacy. But I also think, on the other hand, the criticisms and points brought out by these same disillusioned players are valid and shouldn't be ignored. But yeah, so numbers wise, the player population in relation to quarterly patches or releases, probably the chapter being the biggest one, will be okay. A lot of people think, oh, my friend, my social circle in ESO, they cancel their ESO Plus, the game's dying, or I don't know anyone who's gonna buy blah 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 from the Crown Store. Whereas in reality, there is quite a significant population to still be buying things from the Crown Store, to still be invested in ESO as a casual play experience. So I don't think people should lose sight of that. Now, whether that's healthy for the game overall in terms of the MMO aspect or in terms of consistency for things like combat, well, that's a completely different story. But yeah, numbers wise, it's doing okay. And I suspect that it'll do okay and still drive the sales and the profits for ZeniMax Online Studios, as this is basically one of their biggest money makers under ZeniMax Media. So no, the player population, in a consistent sense, maybe for the older player base or like through the eyes of an experienced player, may not be what they want or may not be as good as they want, but I don't think it's dying or dead. However, there is a but. This is the but I'm worrying about. In the content space, The Elder Scrolls Online is dying, and a large part of the focus of this video is going to be on the ecosystem that includes ESO, the players, and the content creators. No one has talked about just yet. I'm not sure if I could even do this topic justice, but I'll try my best. Oftentimes, whether it's on the forums or wherever, a lot of people dismiss ESO content creators as unimportant or ultimately trivial to the longevity of the game, and saying that we're crybabies or that there is no influence to be had on the direction of the game. I can certainly see where this perspective comes from, especially from newer content creators who may be thinking we're being too negative or unfair or burnt out. Honestly, I can see that. I can see this perspective as being valid from people unfamiliar with both the feelings of the older player base and also the actual history of the Elder Scrolls Online. And that's okay. We often like to talk a lot about how content creators have an influence on their audience. I mean, people are still looking at that Angry Joe video from like 2014 or 2013 about ESO and saying ESO is bad, or like ESO isn't taken very seriously in the MMO space because some content creators just don't talk about ESO. So that level of influence is there. But it's also the other way around, where the audience certainly makes a big impact on the content creators and what they want or should pursue in terms of video production, streaming content, making entire websites, and so on. So what I mean by this is, when Update 35, and this is not an attack on the devs or anything, and the disastrous launch of Update 36 happened, all the predictions we made back then were right, and it was lining up with the player fatigue I've been talking about for at least the past 2 years with, the Crown Store, the monetization practices in the game, lack of a reward system, the quarterly drive to change builds and so on. This was also happening on the level of content creation. So yes, some content creators were burning out, but at the same time, the effect on our audience also has a big impact on us. Meaning, like, if people are very disillusioned, if the people who actually do watch my videos or come by my streams to hang out, and they see me playing a game they're not been playing anymore, or seeing me play a game where they just don't enjoy the game, no one's gonna watch. So that's gonna make an influence on what kind of videos content creators or whatever will make. So this is why you'll see within the content space for the Elder Scrolls Online in the coming days or months, depending on what's going to happen, I think there will be polar opposites in terms of the types of videos that'll be most popular with ESO, with build videos and maybe some guide videos, kind of in the middle of it. So what we have on one hand is going to be videos that will often critique and scrutinize a lot of things about the Elder Scrolls Online, whether it's patch notes or stuff like that. And I want to avoid the implication that's like on its own negative. I'm just stating the fact that, hey, people want to see if they should come back to the game, because a lot of people who quit the game love the game, but they're saying and checking in with videos where it says, oh, this is happening in ESO right now. Oh, this was a dev response right now. And that's helping them determine whether they should come back to the game or stay away. So obviously, the viewer count for that is going to be a lot higher, at least on YouTube. And the other opposite is the hype camp, where it's like, okay, this is going to happen in update 40, or this is the chapter, blah, 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 right? And that's kind of the more positive. I don't want to say positive either, because it's just kind of like, oh, here's what's going to happen. Is that going to bring you back? So, and it kind of in the middle of all this, I don't think there will be a lot of, maybe it'll build up over time, but there won't be as many viewer counts compared to those two types of videos for ESO in the content space, for like builds and stuff like that. Which is why this leads us to two things. So the viewer count, or the viewership on YouTube and Twitch for the Elder Scrolls Online, I can't sugarcoat this, and it's been stressing me, is abysmal. The Twitch viewership for the Elder Scrolls Online directory is incredibly bad. And I feel like, I'm gonna be honest here, I feel like all of us know, like us as in the content creators know, we just haven't really like said as much and very publicly. I feel like once you say it out loud, it's like, okay, yeah, you know. But it's really bad. And to show you how bad, the numbers for viewership on Twitch for ESO is lower than pre-COVID. That's really bad. I'm seeing streamers, including myself, you know, okay, for example, if I was getting 200, 300 viewers without drops, I'm getting like 50, 70 viewers at most. With drops, maybe over 140. I'm also seeing other popular ESO streamers who usually get 300. They're hovering around 100, 150. And of course, this doesn't include the streamers with embedded viewership, which is an entirely different story. And it's just not a very healthy directory right now. And I think some streamers also don't feel entirely too safe, especially if they're being stream sniped and stuff like that. And, you know, that's also a whole different story. So Twitch viewership is really bad for ESO right now, which is why within like the past few weeks, including myself, a lot of ESO streamers have been streaming other games. It's like maybe 5-10% ESO of their time, and then every like 90-80% is like something else, like Overwatch 2, Call of Duty. And this is fine. This is what we have to do. Like you can't just stay forever on a dying directory or faltering game, because I mean, it's your, depending on what kind of content creator you are you full-time? That's your livelihood. Are you part-time? You still want money, right? If it's a hobby thing, well, probably not as impactful, but still, it feels bad, man, right? For YouTube viewership, it's the same story. It doesn't matter if you're and you know, I've talked to a good amount of ESO YouTubers as well, and I'm also keeping an eye on this might sound creepy to the people watching who are the content creators, but I've been keeping an eye on their view on the views, and their sub counts and all that stuff in relation to what's happening with ESO, and it's mostly stagnant. It's either the view count is stagnant or declining. And that's why even on my channel, you'll see me suddenly post videos where I'm playing God of War Ragnarok, when I could be making a build video or something like that, right, for ESO. But the problem with that is, if you guys don't enjoy it, why would we make it? In a sense, like, I still do enjoy ESO. Don't take it as, like, I'm burnt out on ESO. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to see some sort of return on your investment in terms of time and effort. And I feel like for a good amount of content creators, including myself, we're not really seeing that. Apart from the videos that those two types of videos I talked about, right? Hype or criticism. And I don't think that's very healthy in the long term for the content space. And obviously, I don't know how you're gonna change that, because right now things are very, 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 very tense. Things are really uncomfortable right now. I think in the communities that actually do interact with this ecosystem, whether it's on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, right? A lot of people have lost trust with the developers and vice versa. I'm seeing a lot more tense stuff from player bases where they're not endgame raiders pissed about a particular patch, or PvPers. It's also people who don't think the lore is up to par anymore, or people who just really don't like the Crown Store stuff. And that's a fatigue that, again, as I mentioned earlier, that's been building up. But I don't want to get too much into this. So again, I've gone over the basic numbers, right? The sub counts, the view counts, it's mostly stagnant or declining for YouTube. Twitch viewership, pretty bad. And that kind of leads to what kind of content you make. And that also leads to a migration of content creators, or a branching out from content creators to do other stuff. And I think if you have less exposure for ESO at this point in time, and if it continues for this coming year in 2023, I would say it doesn't have long as an MMO. Honestly, I have never seen ESO trend on Twitter. This may not be a big deal to you guys, but I have seen Guild Wars 2. I have seen World of Warcraft. I have seen Overwatch. I've seen Call of Duty. I've seen goddamn what's that game? Animal Crossing. I've seen all kinds of games and stuff trend on Twitter, and I have never seen ESO. Like ESO, sometimes Bethesda or Elder Scrolls will trend, but never ESO, and that's really worrying to me. I don't know if it's like a lack of advertising or commercials. I think it has a little to do with that on the developer end with commercials. I remember the Morrowind chapter having like a Super Bowl commercial, right? I think recently they've been trying to do more low-key commercials or like sponsorships where they do approach streamers or bigger YouTubers to make a video like this guy about ESO. And while that's cool, and I really like what they did when they hooked some of us up with bigger Twitch streamers, and they paired me up with Anthony Kung Pan from Twitch to show them around ESO. That was cool, but the unfortunate part of that kind of stuff is there's no retention. Like those content creators never hopped back onto ESO after that. There's no retention rate. And this theme translates into the player base. Yes, you will have spikes. Yes, you will have people continue to make more accounts. I guess alt accounts or new players join up for ESO. But ESO doesn't really have much staying power compared to other MMOs and games. Which is why you're starting to see a lot of ESO content creators approach other games and other kinds of stuff recently. So yes, ESO, in terms of player population, sure, it might not be dying, but with the decline of ESO in the content space, which was not already favorable to ESO, is continuing. Less people are covering it. Eventually, it's gonna do something. So yeah, that's just kind of the current state of ESO, and maybe you don't care, and that's okay. But I think if you are a MMO player or a person who wants to get into it beyond the casual play, now is really not a good time to do so. Because I'd like to talk about this aspect of ESO, because this is why I've stayed with ESO, the community. The communal aspect, where as far as the effects are concerned, is going to be also bad. And I predicted this with update 35, where there would be a brain drain, essentially, with older and experienced players leaving. Well, how many raid guilds are there now? How many raid teams are there now? How many people did the new trial? How many people are teaching? Are there open runs anymore? And I've covered this in several videos where, hey, yeah, we're seeing a big decline in the number of teams, people, and all the social kind of networks that came with all that just kind of like go away. So, and there's this one recurring comment some idiot makes on YouTube videos or whatever, often makes. It bothers me because it's like, man, I don't know if I, but yeah. So the comment is like, oh, it's okay if the older players leave. It's the MMO. It's the way of the MMO. You'll get replaced. And I was like, okay, sure. Older players may leave, they might get burnt out, disgruntled, whatever. But there are a lot more older players leaving the game than they are being replaced. So the rate is like it's just not good. And that kind of dampens, I feel like, the gameplay experience of those who want to get into the MMO aspect of ESO. And this is all tied in with that ecosystem where certain videos and certain viewerships just aren't there. And it's just like a whole mess. So yeah, that's pretty much what I want to talk about as far as the state of ESO, the content creator ecosystem, the nature of the content space. I'm sure we're going to see some videos floating around too that are too, I don't know, that are too positive, too negative, or borderline like, what the heck? So I don't know. So let me talk about my predictions for ESO, and this is going to be my least favorite part, and that may be why I've been rambling on for so long, because I want to avoid talking about my predictions. As I said before, my serious predictions outside of the Redguard chapter thing, often, unfortunately, turn out to be right. My predictions for ESO include, hey, we're going to get hyped up, or going to see some sort of spike, as expected, with the new chapter coming this year. But I think at the current rate of whatever is going on right now in terms of monetization and frankly, no addressing of a lot of grievances the older player base has, that's spilling over into the content space. I don't think ESO as an MMO is gonna. I don't think it's gonna last 2 years. As like a MMO that people would take seriously or semi-seriously, honestly. And that's terrible. Honestly, it's not like It's not like me or the content creators want ESO to die. It's part of our livelihood. It's also something we want to see succeed. You know what I mean? But I just don't really see it. I've been talking to a lot of people, both content creators and just regular players, where they're just like, okay, well, we'll see if they change up anything. And it's kind of like the opposite. Well, never mind. But anyway, like it's just really interesting what people are waiting for. They just want to see any kind of change. I think a lot of people are bored with the yearly format, the year-long story format, on multiple levels. But yeah, my predictions basically include, yeah, I don't think this is really gonna have much as far as content creators and certain things go after about 2 years, if they continue as is. That's all I'm saying. I don't think there's a lack of hope. I think it'll be, if something changes, somewhat soon, hopefully. I think maybe also within the next 2 years, there may be a new class, or maybe the dropping of support for older console generation of console, and we'll see what happens. But I'm not expecting too much from 2023. I'm hoping for the best, but I'm not expecting too much from 2023. But yeah, I'll give it like two or so years for ESO. And that's really it in terms of my prediction for ESO. That's like my main prediction, apart from like how the content space is gonna evolve. My advice for ESO content creators out there, or aspiring ESO content creators out there, especially with the viewership being down on Twitch and YouTube, is I would highly recommend utilizing the YouTube Shorts. YouTube is aggressively pushing the YouTube Short algorithm and all that. I've been seeing some content creators for ESO do it well. Like they'll put out a very relatively short YouTube short about, hell, here's how I killed 10 people, and here's the build real fast, and then check out my YouTube channel. I think YouTube Shorts will be probably a primary or secondary way of gaining subscribers at this point. Full-on build videos and stuff like that, I think, will probably be geared more towards the casual audience at this point. I'll probably, shift away from the endgame stuff quite a bit, into the casual sphere. And yeah, again, YouTube Shorts is a really good one. If you're gonna make some sort of perennial content product, I would highly recommend a website. Not just for builds and stuff like that, if you're an ESO content creator, but something that people will actually use, a function, like you see how Outcast and Wolder has made ESO Hub. They have a build editor. Stuff like that. That's probably going to be really hard. But I think that'd be great. Because right now, the regular stuff that we used to do pre-2022 and all this stuff, I don't think will make big significant growth for you. I would highly suggest branching out to other content. See what sticks. As for Twitch streamers, for ESO content creation, it's really rough, and this is kind of tying it with my prediction for ESO and how the content space is changing. It used to be that with the high and consistent Twitch viewership in the ESO directory, you could make Twitch partner more easily than I've seen other people do in the on Twitch. There's actually a really, in my opinion, really high amount of Twitch partners that came initially from the ESO Twitch directory. I don't know if that's even possible at this point anymore. So I would highly recommend branching out too, while reinforcing Twitch with your YouTube. I would also, at this point, recommend, I don't know where Twitter's going to end up at, but Twitter, TikTok, short form streaming. I would also recommend that if you want to grow your ESO audience on Twitch, it is unfortunate of me to say this, but I think big emphasis on giveaways and stuff like that will be much more relevant now, because as evident by the current numbers, people will probably are more likely to turn up for the giveaways more so than ESO itself, and also for your personality too, right? So, and I don't want to engage in that right now too, where giveaways are involved. I think at a certain point, and this kind of ties with the YouTube content space, Twitch for ESO right now, I think very hyper based on giveaways. If you want to grow. So that's up to you if you want to sink your money and time into Twitch giveaways on your streams. Giveaways in general on your streams. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the Twitch and YouTube and all the short form stuff goes. But yeah, that's about it. I figured I'd make this video to talk about the current state of ESO, what's really going on, at least from my perspective, in terms of player population versus content viewership. And I just wanted to give some advice too to aspiring or current ESO content creators. But yeah, that's pretty much it. On my end, just to give you guys an idea of what's going on my end, and as to why I've been also branching out. It isn't just about the viewer count. I could really, you know what I mean? It's just the fact that a lot of the people who are in my viewership, especially on Twitch, or even YouTube really, is community. So when people in my community are not enjoying ESO, why would they watch? Why would they hang out for a prolonged period of time? It's not like they don't want to be there. It's just like what a large amount of incentive to be there is gone, and I don't blame them. And it's bad to the point where, if we're talking about livelihood, right? The ad revenue for YouTube is about like 99% based on views, right? Clicks. And for the type of ads. So if the viewership is going down, well, I'm and other people are going to see what sticks. And you shouldn't blame content creators for that. I'm seeing some people do that where you should. For Twitch, it's largely based on concurrent viewership, which is an entirely different thing. Especially where, at this point in time, Twitch is pushing ads quite a bit, really aggressively. So this means that if they're looking at your concurrent viewership as a streamer, that will determine how much money you get from running ads on your streams. And so like about pre-November, was it around October, I was close to making 2,000 in a month. A month's worth of streams. It's like 190 hours or something like that. And that's pre-holiday season, essentially. And that's based on my concurrent viewership. And of course, if the ESO viewership keeps going down, you're gonna get less revenue. So right now, we're actually on the cusp of December, which is a major month for ads. And due to the decline of ESO viewership, it's like I'm only getting 600 now. So why, again, this kind of goes back to why you're seeing all these content creators, including myself, try these different games and all that shit until maybe the next patch, where things are a bit more maybe hyped or whatever. That's just the game, baby. But it's just not very encouraging. And yeah, that's really it. I just hope that this gave you more perspective on both the state of ESO in-game and also out of the game. Because I think it's really important to talk about out of the game too. Because I think, compared to Morrowind, where a lot of people did quit over the patch, Update 35 is in some ways good, or better than Morrowind, and worse than Morrowind. We weren't as connected back in Morrowind compared to these days. We didn't have Discord back then, really. We had TeamSpeaks and stuff like that. Communities were more isolated. But when Update 35 and 6 came out, it's like, well, everyone talks to one another. So there's a much more significant impact in terms of like the word of mouth power, right? So hopefully, there's still hope for ESO. I mean, if you can have that kind of a drastic ripple effect with a bad patch, you can have that kind of a drastic ripple effect with a good patch or something. I kind of want to talk about what they could do, but I think what they could or should do for ESO. I think the biggest points, and I hope, I'm pretty sure other content creators will agree with me on these things, is that I think ESO should probably focus on changing up its year-long format thing. They should really, really look at the lack of a reward structure in the game. That is a huge part of retention rate in other MMOs. They should look at how certain things are monetized, because it does put off a lot of people. They should look at how certain things are also advertised if they want to monetize. They should also strongly consider probably taking into account the player fatigue even more. I think they got a little blindsided by Update 35, where this strong backlash from a lot of the player base, or the experienced player base, was such to the point I don't think they were expecting it, honestly, in retrospect. I think they should take that into more into account. I think they should really drop support for the older generation of console, because it is holding back a lot of stuff, I suspect, on their end, as they've talked about in their interviews. There's a lot of things on the wish list, and I don't know if they can or want to do it. But I'm hoping for the best. But like I said, as I predicted, we'll see. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in a bit. Stay safe.